let's talk about storytelling. Specifically, storytelling in English.
Ooh, interesting.
Yeah. Today we're diving deep into this article, and get this, it's called Storytelling in English: How to Share Your Personal Experiences.
Okay, personal experiences, I like it.
I know, right? So by the end of this deep dive, you'll be able to really captivate your audience with the stories you tell.
That sounds awesome. I'm already intrigued. And you know what's really fascinating? The article points out that storytelling isn't just about entertainment.
Oh,
Yeah, it's actually an incredibly powerful tool for, get this, mastering English itself.
wait, really? So it's like, I don't know, sneaking veggies into a smoothie. You're learning without even realizing it.
Exactly. That's a great way to put it.
Okay, I'm listening. How does that actually work? I'm curious.
Well, think about it this way. When you tell a story, you're using so many different pieces of the language, vocabulary, grammar, tenses, all that stuff. You're putting it all together to paint a complete picture.
So you're not just memorizing rules from a textbook.
Yeah. Right. You're actually using them in a way that feels natural and, well, engaging.
Okay, so instead of just lifting weights at the gym, you're suddenly out on the field actually playing the game.
Precisely. And just like with any sport, the more you play, the better you get.
Makes sense.
And the more you practice storytelling, the more fluent and confident you become in English.
I like it.
Now, the article actually lists a bunch of benefits, but one of the biggest ones, for me at least, is that storytelling helps you connect with people.
Ooh, connect with people.
Yeah. On a much deeper level.
That's so true. It's not just about the words themselves, it's about the emotions you share.
Right.
I remember this one time I was traveling in Italy, and my Italian was, well, let's just say it needed some work.
Okay.
But I was trying to explain this funny mishap I had with a pigeon in St. Mark's Square. And even though my grammar was all over the place, the locals were cracking up, we connected through that shared laughter, even with the language barrier.
That's such a perfect example. It shows that it's not about speaking perfectly. It's about the emotion, the shared experience.
Right.
And that brings us to choosing the right story, which is actually the first crucial step in becoming a better storyteller.
Okay, picking the right story. You wouldn't bake a cake without the right ingredients, right?
Exactly. But how do you know if a story is good enough for, I don't know, for a deep dive like this one?
Yeah, what makes a story deep dive worthy?
Well, the article gives us 3 criteria: relatability, simplicity, and something that sparks either emotion or curiosity.
Relatability, simplicity, and emotion or curiosity. I think I'm following other.
And we're all drawn to stories that we can relate to, right?
Makes sense.
So start with something that you personally connect with, something that has a clear and straightforward plot.
Okay, so it should be relatable, simple,
Yeah.
and then it needs that extra oomph of emotion or intrigue.
Yeah. So I'm guessing a story about, like, your cat's sleeping habits wouldn't quite cut it.
Probably not unless, I don't know, my cat had some epic dreams or something.
Maybe.
But okay, I see what you mean. I need to dig a little deeper.
Yeah, think about those moments that made you laugh, cry, or maybe even those times you were completely surprised by something.
Okay.
It could be anything, like that time you wore mismatched shoes to work, or when you finally conquered a fear and did something totally out of your comfort zone.
Gotcha. I think I'm starting to see the light here.
Good. So now that we've got our story picked out, we need to, well, structure it.
Structure it, like give it a beginning, a middle, and an end.
Pretty much. The article actually compares a good story to a journey, which I think is a really helpful analogy.
It is. You definitely need a clear path to follow if you're going on a journey.
Exactly. And that path has 3 parts: introduction, main event, and conclusion.
The classic 3-act structure. I like it.
And think of the introduction as setting the scene, like a movie establishing the characters and the location.
So you're basically saying, come on in, listener, let me paint you a picture.
Yeah. Something like, picture this. It's a sunny afternoon in Barcelona.
Ooh, I like it. I'm already hooked.
And then, boom, you hit them with the main event. This is where all the action happens, the conflict unfolds, all that good stuff.
That's where you keep your listener on the edge of their seat.
Exactly. Remember that example from the article about the bike trip gone wrong?
Oh, yeah, with the friend getting stuck in the sand. That was a good one.
Right. It was relatable, had some suspense.
Okay, so you've hooked your listener with the introduction and the main event. Now what?
Now you bring it home with the conclusion. This is where you wrap up the story, share the resolution, maybe even a lesson learned.
It's like that satisfying aha moment at the end.
Yeah. So with the bike trip example, it's everyone laughing it off and enjoying the rest of the day at the beach.
It's all about coming full circle.
Right. But it's not just about what happened, it's about how you tell it.
Ooh, you're talking about descriptive language. This is where it gets fun.
Yes. This is where your story really comes to life.
I love using descriptive language to make people feel like they're right there in the story with me.
It's so effective.
Like, instead of just saying the sand was hot, you could say, the sand was so hot it felt like walking on a bed of glowing coals.
Exactly. You're appealing to their senses, making them feel the heat, hear the sounds, smell the salty air.
You want them to experience this story, not just hear it.
Right, and don't underestimate the power of emotion. Sharing how you felt, whether you were embarrassed, relieved, or ecstatic, it just draws your listener in even more.
It makes the story so much more human and relatable.
Absolutely. But you know what sometimes trips people up when they're telling stories?
What is that?
It's those pesky verb tenses.
Ah, yes, the grammar gremlins can definitely be tricky.
Yeah. But the article highlights a few key ones that are super important for storytelling. We've got the past simple, past continuous, present perfect, and the past perfect.
All right, those are some heavy hitters. Let's break those down and see how they can help us paint a vivid picture for our listeners.
Sounds like a plan. So let's start with the past simple. You'll probably use this one the most when you're telling a story.
Okay, the past simple.
Yeah, it's for like completed actions in the past. I went to the store, I ate a sandwich. Those are all past simple.
Right, right. So those are like the main events, the backbone of the story.
Exactly. But what if you want to describe something that was happening over a period of time?
Ooh, okay.
Like I was walking down the street, enjoying the sunshine. That would be past continuous.
Past continuous. Okay, so that's for actions that were in progress.
Yeah, it's perfect for setting the scene, creating atmosphere, or even showing an action that was happening when something else happened.
I see.
You could even use it to create a little suspense.
Oh, like how? Give me an example.
Okay, like, I was just drifting off to sleep when I heard a strange noise outside my window.
Ooh, that's a good one. Now I'm hooked.
Right. So you can see how that would make your listener lean in and want to hear more.
Definitely.
Okay, so we've covered past simple for completed actions, past continuous for actions in progress. Now, what about present perfect?
Ah, present perfect. That one always gives me a little trouble.
I know, it can be tricky.
It seems to be about the past, but it also connects to the present somehow.
Exactly. It's like saying, this happened in the past and it's still relevant to me now.
Okay, so give me an example.
Think about a story where you learned a really valuable lesson. You could say something like, I've made a lot of mistakes in my life, but that experience taught me to always trust my gut.
Ooh, I like that. It shows how that past experience still impacts you today.
Exactly. And then we have the past perfect.
Past perfect. I think I remember this one from grammar class, but remind me how it works.
Well, it can seem a bit tricky, but it's actually really helpful for making sure your listener understands the order of events in your story.
Okay, so it's about clarity.
Yeah, it's basically saying, this happened before that other thing happened.
Okay, I'm starting to see the light.
Imagine you're telling a story about missing a flight. You could say, I had already checked in my bags when I realized I'd left my passport at home.
Ah, so the past perfect helps avoid confusion.
Precisely. It's especially useful when you have a few different actions happening in the past and you need to make it clear which one happened first.
Like little signposts along the way.
That's a great way to think about it. I had just finished my presentation when, or she had never seen so much snow before.
Those are good examples.
Yeah.
All right, so we've talked about structuring your story using descriptive language, and now we've tackled those tricky verb tenses.
Yeah, feeling more confident about those.
Definitely feeling more confident. But, I think it's important to point out that storytelling isn't just for, formal presentations or speeches.
That's true.
We use storytelling every day in casual conversations.
Right, like when you're catching up with a friend or even just describing your day.
It's how we connect with each other, how we share our experiences.
And the article has some great tips for making storytelling feel more natural in those everyday conversations.
Oh, I'd love to hear those.
Well, one tip is to use fillers.
Fillers. Like, and.
Exactly. Those little words and phrases might seem insignificant, but they actually help us sound more natural when we speak.
I never thought of it that way. It's like giving your brain a little pause to catch up with your mouth.
Exactly. They make your speech flow more smoothly and make you sound more relatable.
That's really helpful.
And another tip the article gives is to ask questions.
Asking questions during a story?
Yeah, like you're involving your listener in the experience.
So instead of just talking at them, you're talking with them.
Precisely. It makes it feel more like a conversation, a shared experience.
So instead of just launching into a story about, I don't know, that crazy concert I went to last week, I could start by asking, have you ever been to a concert where?
Exactly. It's a great way to hook your listener and make them feel more invested in the story.
Those are great tips. I'm definitely going to try those out.
Eh.
And speaking of keeping your listener engaged, the article uses this really cool analogy comparing the storyteller to a director.
Oh, I love that analogy. It highlights the importance of controlling the pace and the tone of your story.
It's like you're guiding your audience through the story, keeping them on the edge of their seats, making them laugh, cry, feel all the feels.
Exactly. And think about how a really good actor can draw you in with just a whisper, a pause, or a change in their expression.
It's all about those subtle cues, those nonverbal elements that add so much depth to the story.
Right. And you can do the same with your storytelling. Even if your listener can't see you, they can still hear those pauses, those changes in your tone of voice.
That makes sense.
It's all about bringing the story to life, making it feel real for your listener.
So as we're thinking about all these different elements of storytelling, I'm curious, what kind of stories are bubbling to the surface for you? What experiences are you itching to share?
It's a good question. And the article reminds us that we don't have to have climbed Mount Everest or written a best-selling novel to have a great story to tell.
Right, right.
Sometimes the most captivating stories are those everyday moments, those little things that made us laugh, cry, or learn something new.
It's about finding the extraordinary in the ordinary
Exactly. And those are often the stories that people connect with the most.
because they're relatable, they're human.
Yeah. So as you start piecing your story together, think about those key ingredients we talked about.
The relatability, the structure, the vivid language, those verb tenses, and of course, that passion that makes it all come alive.
And don't forget, storytelling is a skill. It takes practice.
Right. No one's born a perfect storyteller.
Exactly. So be patient with yourself, have fun with it, and just keep practicing.
The more you tell your stories, the better you'll get.
And one of the most powerful things you can do is to share those stories with other people.
Like find a language partner or a friend and just tell them a story.
Yeah. And don't be afraid to ask for feedback.
Feedback is how we grow.
Right. And you might even inspire them to share their own stories,
Yeah.
and then it just becomes this beautiful exchange of experiences and perspectives.
That's what it's all about, right? Connection, sharing, learning from each other.
Exactly. And that's one of the main takeaways I'm getting from this whole deep dive. That storytelling isn't just about improving your English. It's about so much more than that.
Ooh, tell me more.
It's about connecting with others, understanding yourself better, and maybe even leaving a little mark on the world with your unique voice.
I love that. It's about using your voice, your stories, to make a difference.
Exactly. And the best part is, it's a journey that never ends.
Oh, I like that. So what does all of this mean for our listeners as they embark on their own storytelling journey?
It's about finding those experiences from your own life and, I don't know, shaping them into something you can share with others.
Yeah, and you don't have to be a professional writer or anything to be a good storyteller.
Not at all. Everyone has a story to tell.
It's about finding those moments, big or small, and figuring out how to, bring them to life with words.
Exactly. And remember, you've got all the tools you need now, after this deep dive.
We talked about finding a relatable story, structuring it well, using vivid language, and of course those verb tenses.
Oh, and that passion. You got to have passion for the story you're telling.
Definitely. But, if you're feeling a bit lost or stuck, the article gives some really good examples of the kinds of stories you could tell.
Yeah. Like memorable vacations, funny or embarrassing moments, those times when you learn something new.
Oh man, those embarrassing moments. I've got a whole collection of those.
I bet we all do.
Like that time, I don't know if I've ever told you this, but that time I accidentally called my boss Mom.
Oh, no.
Yeah, talk about wanting to disappear into thin air.
We've all been there, though.
And, those are the stories that people really connect with, I think.
They are. They're so relatable. They remind us that we're all human.
And that we all make those kinds of silly mistakes sometimes.
Exactly. But those mistakes can make for the best stories.
That's true. But what about those stories where you face a real challenge, maybe even fail at something, but you come out of it having learned a valuable lesson? Those stories can be really inspiring.
Oh, absolutely. They show resilience and that it's okay to, struggle sometimes.
Yeah, they remind us that it's all part of the journey.
Right, and that growth comes from those challenges.
Okay, so thinking about all these different types of stories, what story is coming to mind for you? What experience are you just itching to share with the world?
That's a good question. It makes you think about, all the experiences we've had that have shaped us.
Yeah, You don't have to have climbed Mount Everest to have a good story.
Not at all. Sometimes those small, everyday moments are the ones that really stick with us.
And those are often the most meaningful ones, I think.
They are. So as you're thinking about your story, remember all those key ingredients we've been talking about?
Relatability, structure, vivid language, verb tenses, and of course that passion, that energy you bring to it.
Yeah, and don't forget that storytelling is a skill you develop over time.
It's like anything. The more you practice, the better you get.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
be patient with yourself, have fun, and just keep experimenting.
And I think one of the most powerful things you can do to improve your storytelling is to actually share your stories with other people.
Yeah. Find a friend, a language partner, someone who will listen.
And don't be afraid to ask for feedback.
Right. Feedback can be so valuable. It helps you see your stories from a different perspective.
And you might even inspire them to share their stories in return, which is always fun.
It creates this beautiful back and forth, this sharing of experiences and ideas.
And isn't that what it's all about? Connecting with each other through stories.
That's what makes storytelling so special. It goes beyond just, learning grammar or vocabulary.
Right. It's about human connection.
It helps us understand each other better, and maybe even ourselves a little better, too.
It's powerful stuff.
It really is. And I think that's the biggest takeaway I'm getting from this whole deep dive.
What's that?
Storytelling is about so much more than just improving your English skills.
Tell me more.
It's about using your voice, sharing your experiences, connecting with others on a deeper level.
It's about contributing something unique and meaningful to the world.
And that's something we can all do no matter what our level of English is.
Oh, powerful.
It is. And I think it's something worth reflecting on.
Reflecting on.
Yeah, all the stories we've heard today, the examples from the article, those anecdotes we shared, even those stories that we're still carrying around inside of us.
It makes you realize how much stories shape us, how they influence our worldview and our understanding of ourselves.
Right. They help us make sense of the world around us.
And as you become better at telling your own stories in English, you're not just improving your language skills.
You're adding your voice to this global conversation.
You're becoming a part of something bigger than yourself.
Exactly. And that's pretty incredible when you think about it.
So to all our listeners out there, I say embrace those stories you have within you.
Find those experiences that are just waiting to be told.
And share them with the world.
Yeah, the world needs your stories.
So go out there, fellow storytellers, and weave your magic.
Happy storytelling.
And until next time, keep diving deep, keep exploring, keep learning.